Wrath Classic has been around for almost a month now since release, and people are starting to use their paid character boosts, so it has me thinking about the burning question: have character boosts ruined Wrath? Hello everyone, it's Ego, and that's what I want to talk about in today's video. I want to dive into some of my pros and cons to boosts in Wrath Classic. Honestly, I'm personally torn on the subject because there's positives and negatives in my eyes, but that's what I'm here to talk about. Hey everyone, before we continue, don't forget to subscribe. It's free, it shows support, and it really does help the channel grow. Don't forget to also leave a like before you leave. Thanks everyone, let's get back to the video. So let's get the bad stuff out of the way first and look at the cons for the level 70 character boost in Wrath Classic. Starting off with the most obvious con about players boosting characters, and that's inexperience. Lots of people who boost characters might just do it off of impulse, which I can't lie, I've done myself, but what they don't do is research the class after or before they boost it. I'm sure you can relate when I say that we've both met that one person in a dungeon that feels like they have no idea what class they're playing. They're missing a key ability, they're unaware that they can buff someone, or they just don't know simple things like rotation and so on. Well, that's a big con of having boosted characters, is that you're not encouraging players to learn their class through the leveling process. So sometimes they don't learn their class until way after, and even then they may not be aware of key points. Though I think this can be easily fixed if they decided to add a more in-depth tutorial or something. Until that time though, it'll most likely remain an unfortunate con to boosts. Now, a bigger issue with boosts that not a lot of people realize is the facilitation of botting accounts. Now, if I'm overthinking this, or if you agree with me, let me know down in the comments. We've all heard of them, the bots that do nothing but farm and flood the auction house, making insane amounts of gold through automatic gameplay. Well, in order to really get the maximum value out of auction houses and the server's population, you need to be max level, right? Exactly. So what better way to do that than getting a head start at level 70? Now, I understand that there's only one boost per account, but with the growing economy around gold buying, gold sellers can be making much more than a monthly subscription in a single month off of their sales. So what's to stop them from purchasing another account and doubling their profits? I'm not sure if I'm making much sense here, but my logic is if users, particularly bots, are able to bypass a large portion of levels, then it's easier for them to essentially do what it is they do. I'm completely aware that Blizzard has fixed things like dungeon boosting. Players can't really sell boosts anymore, and I'm so happy with that. That changed a lot of stuff, and I'm very happy personally. But this is an entirely different can of worms that I have no idea how Blizzard will close. If I'm overthinking this, again, please let me know in the comments, but that's a big con in my eyes for character boosts. A smaller con that I'll just kind of throw in here is the lack of gear that boosted toons have. I'm not talking in the sense that they're not powerful enough. I'm talking about how boosted characters, especially those in crucial roles like tanks or heals, try and jump into dungeons expecting that they can absolutely crush it. It's usually not the case. They're getting crushed instead. It's a minor inconvenience at times, I know, but it does make the boosted users targets of maybe some less than nice comments from other players, and that's not always fun. The last con I want to mention before we move into some pros is probably the most notable and relatable one of all. It's just not Wrath. The original Wrath of the Lich King, of course, had zero boost, and that's how players remember it. Personally, like I mentioned, I'm torn on my opinion with boosts, but I can definitely say that although it's branded as the Wrath expansion, it'll never truly be the original Wrath of the Lich King experience, not just because of boosts, but because of the massive availability of information, add-ons, and all that stuff. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely adore the Wrath Classic expansion so far, and I'm not talking bad about it by any means, but there is that change that still to this day doesn't sit well with many players. Okay, so we made it through the negative comments. If you're still watching, thanks, because that was a lot of ranting I did. Let's get into some positives for boosts. The biggest pro, and I think the driving reason why Blizzard decided to add boosts into WoW Classic, was to allow veteran players or even new players to come back to the Classic days without needing to grind away before they can jump into it with friends, old guildies, or even family members. I can relate to that because I have family that has come back to the game to play the Wrath expansion, and if it wasn't for some of these changes that have been made, I don't think they would have put the time aside to go through 70 levels before they can jump into the action with me. Another pro is that it takes away the pain of leveling at least one of your toons on your account. I'm very happy that Blizzard limited the boost to one boost per account. I think that was a great compromise between having boosts and no boosts at all. That boost can help you skip the grindy leveling phase of a toon that is notorious for long leveling, like a warrior for example. I personally used my boost on a druid, which isn't a bad leveling class by any means, but it was convenient to not have to go through the barons again. If it wasn't limited to one per account, then we'd have some bigger issues for sure, but where it's at right now, I'd say we're okay. Another great thing about the boost is that the boosted characters aren't actually very significant. What I mean by that is that they don't come with crazy gear, insane amounts of gold, or even professions. They're as bare bones as they can be, which kind of balances it out. Speaking from experience from when I boosted my druid, boosted toons seem to be equipped with just enough gear to at least function in a solo questing environment, which to me, like I said, is rather balanced compared to what boosts are like in retail WoW currently. The fact that they also don't have professions or gold when they're boosted means that players will still have to go back to old content to farm the materials, or they'll have to farm the gold to buy them off the auction house. It's nice because they still have to work for something. I do believe that boosts have changed Wrath Classic and TBC Classic when it was first introduced. That's a given. It's allowed new players though to join in, like I mentioned, and old players to return, which I know I'll sound cheesy when I say this, but it brings players together again. It gives those wanting to come back or even try Classic compared to retail an opportunity to play with their Classic friends or guildies. No matter your standpoint, boosts aren't all that bad. Overall, my opinion on boosts isn't entirely negative or positive. I like things about them, but I also dislike things about them. Though I do feel that they introduced boosts rather suddenly at the end of WoW Classic going into TBC, I do believe that they at least tried to take into consideration that Classic still needs to be different from retail WoW. The limitations that they put on boosts, like one per account, the gear, and all that is proof that they at least tried to appeal to both parties. At the very least, I can say that I appreciate that. They could have easily said, let's have unlimited boosts and give the best gear, but they didn't. It's definitely a controversial subject with lots of different opinions, but these pros and cons have been my views on boosts. But I'd like to hear yours too. Let me know in the comments what you think about boosts in Wrath. Do you agree with some of the pros I mentioned? Maybe some of the cons? Maybe I missed something that you'd like to add. Don't be shy and let me know what you think. If you made it to the end of the video, thank you so much. You're an absolute legend. If you liked the video, before you leave, click that like button and sub to the channel. It's greatly appreciated. With all that being said, everyone, thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video.